I encourage everyone to take a moment and breathe and take a tea cheers with a Jiri tea. A Jiri tea recognizes the beauty in shared stories and shared opportunities. Ajiri sources award-winning tea from Kenya, employs women in the region to handcraft the labels, and sends 100% of the profits back to the region to support orphan education. Save 10% on your order of Kenyan teas and coffee with the code BeautifullyHuman at ajiritea.com. AJIRIT.com. Tea mugs up. Hello and welcome to the Beautifully Human podcast. I'm Nick Sheesby. In this podcast, I speak with beautiful humans from all around the world, sharing with you their incredible stories, revealing the power in every human story, to spread love and humanity to a world that is in desperate need of it, to show that we can all connect in beautiful ways, no matter where we come from or what we look like. What you will find out is that we are all beautifully human. Let's all be beautifully human. Thank you again for checking out the Beautifully Human podcast. My name is Nick Sheesby, and today I am hanging out with Lucia Gabriela. And man, what a cool look at life she has. I'm excited for you to hear this and see if it changes your mindset on ways you look at the world and how you interpret it and your challenges in life. So yeah, enjoy this episode. Again, follow us on Instagram at the Beautifully Human Podcast. Follow on Spotify. Rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts. And again, most importantly, enjoy this beautiful episode. I really love when I physically get to see people. I mean, virtually, physically, you know, in 2021, that's what we get. So I like to start it off with a broad spectrum question and just let you run with it for a little bit. But tell me about your life.
Right now?
Like growing up, but yeah.
Oh, okay. So I am originally from Ecuador. Was born there, raised there, and I came to the US when I was 19. So I'm actually in the US 21 years now. And I grew up the story that led me to do what I do because I'm passionate about is I grew up in a home that I saw a lot of emotional and physical abuse from my parents. Like they both each other. They have this toxicity within each other. There was no consciousness in their relationship. I can say that we didn't experience like abuse in the sense of like physical or emotional, but we kind of like secondhand abuse, right? Like, like secondhand smokers. You get that secondhand abuse, emotional abuse, seeing, witnessing that. That led me to a journey, long story short, here to feel empowered to help create conscious relationship and like how it is that we're going to create that. Like pretty much the vision is to create a world where I think like all of us would resonate in. It's a new paradigm where our children are not inheriting as much trauma as we have had. They don't, a world where our children are more conscious about relationship, and also they're more conscious about how to create a relationship that are fulfilling and not toxic. And also kids that they learn consent boundaries, but also they learn to own their no and honor other people's no. So it is something that it has not been taught to us. Like we have not learned, or we have not heard that level of wisdom and awareness. And I think that has, because we have not learned that has led us to be in default relationship. So I'm all about conscious relationship, conscious intimacy, conscious sexuality, conscious kink BDSM, conscious uncoupling, everything that is conscious, because it means to me the aspect of caring, being aware, being in place of compassion and heart. So pretty much a
Yeah,
synopsis of me and everything I am around.
I love that. Um, so Ecuador, I've not been yet. It's on my list of places to go. How was it growing up in Ecuador?
I was growing up. Um, I think I was blessed. I feel I was blessed as well. I feel like I was spoiled in a sense of being able to travel around my country at a very young age. Um, my family had like a political and kind of like status, political status, which kind of like allowed my family to have this luxury of traveling to the Amazon, to the coast, to um, it had these amazing experiences. Like, yes, I've been blessed. Like, I feel like one of the greatest gifts that I received as a child growing up in Ecuador, it was the ability to travel in my weekends. Every single
Hmm.
weekend we would travel. Um, that stopped when I was going into seventh grade, because that became like school became more important at that point. So
Sure.
growing up, like as a child, like I traveled a lot, and I had it was such a different we play a lot outside, we travel a lot, we have dogs all over the place. It's like it was nice. It was nice. So
That's so
it
cool.
I mean Ecuador is such a beautiful country to begin with. Um so yeah, I feel blessed, and I spoiled in the sense that I was able to see things that people, travel from other countries to witness and see and experience.
Yeah, I have to imagine just like you said, the Amazon, that's just like that sounds like something I want to go do like right now. And then seeing the coast, like does South American countries just sound so beautiful to me, and I'm like, yeah, that's such a cool way to be able to travel, like you said, every weekend. What a blessing. What a, how incredible.
Yes, and I have the blessings of traveling to the coast and experience the beautiful coast and like beaches in like Ecuador. The food, the fresh shrimp or the fresh little
Hmm.
langostinos that we call it, that they're like lobster, the little lobsters that we call langostinos, and they're like going and like waking up in the morning, having breakfast, having like this amazing food like plantain, like the
Oh
plantain
man.
bowl with cheese inside or with chicken inside, and like and many times we would be eating breakfast and the fish just came out of the ocean. Like we would see the little boat of the fishermen coming and like getting into the beach and like the sand, and the people from the restaurant will get the fish, and I get and it's just like I was eating fish that it was caught like an hour ago. So
Yeah.
the level of, oh my god, the yumminess of like when it comes to food, when it comes to tradition. Another thing that I love, it was tradition. I don't know, a lot of people don't know, in Ecuador we have a area that's called Esmeraldas, and Esmeraldas is like a province, like a region, and Esmeraldas was one of the, I would say, the pioneers of freedom of for the Black community, because the Black slave, escaped from the Spaniard conquistadores, right? They escaped
Yeah.
and they uh, became in partnership with indigenous of that area. They didn't speak the
Wow.
language, they didn't speak anything, but the history showed that it was like kind of like they knew that suppression was happening, that trauma was happening, that these Spaniard white people with beard, like all of this, like like the Spaniards were coming and like suppressing and like putting the thing, and they created alliance with indigenous, the Incas indigenous of those areas, and I would say that the Black community in Ecuador was free from a very long time
Wow.
ago, like from the 1600 we're talking about.
Holy shit.
So when it comes to the culture, it's like the we call the Eco Afro culture. Afro American, they call it here, but over there it's like Afro Ecuadorian culture. It's so well recognized, so well appreciated. We have the marimba, we have the food. I remember
Oh man.
as a child growing up and dancing marimba and wearing costumes from the traditional Black culture. I can tell you that it's one of the regions that still have the religion, the food, the tradition, the art of that came from Africa, and it's celebrated. And I know that I'm bringing this up because it's like with everything that happened last year here in the U.S., I was shocked, and because I was like, wait, let me just get back to my own history and recognize where this may have happened in my own country. And I was surprised to see that um, there will come a level of liberation for that
Yeah.
community. And I witnessed, of course, there's discrimination everywhere in the world, but I witnessed such
Right.
a level of respect for the culture and a representation, a political representation of those communities as well. So yeah, it was interesting growing up in Ecuador and moving to the US. It's such a different shift that
Yeah.
as a mother, I took my daughter when she was 4 and when she was 7. I took her at 8. I took her to Ecuador. I took her to the jungle. I took her to the waterfall. I took her to all the different areas, and she loved it. Like we cannot wait to go back. We're just waiting to see like
Yeah.
how these times that we're living now. We
Right.
can
Yeah.
travel with freedom, and with ease,
Yeah.
or we have to call in a friend from the another space and, and planet and take us in the ship and like
Right. Yeah. 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 Man, I just the whole time you were speaking, I was just like daydreaming, putting myself into that. I just like the music, the culture, the food, like dancing. How? I mean, what? And yeah, like to see how just awful it got here. Last year, like, I mean, anyone seeing that had to take that as like, this is really fucking bad. But like to come from that, appreciation of the culture and the integration and everything, it had to be just extra tough, I would imagine.
well, yes, it was tough because unfortunately there's a wounding in America, especially when it comes to the communities. There's a wound, and many people are not educated, like how other countries or how the cultures actually embrace or reject other cultures and things like that. So when I was speaking up in the sense of like, hey, I come from a place where I embrace all cultures because as a child, I was one of those children that I would be dancing African music. I would be practicing for African culture. I would be even African voodoo or Santeria or any of those energetic practices and healing practices. It was very common in my home to be part of it. So the rejection of so many other people that were like they could not understand that, hey, like I understand, I see and I feel your pain, but I grew up in a way that I have friends and I was, I mean, I didn't, it's not like we don't see people of colors, or that would be ridiculous to say I don't see color. But we see people
Right.
beyond their color and their skin. Because believe it or not, in Ecuador, we have over, I would say, like, Ecuador has been a spot for freedom for World War One and World War II. So we have a lot of Chinese, we have a lot of Japanese, we have African. Well, now it's like in the 16, 1700, we have the African community, we have the Chinese, the Japanese, we have lots of European, we have lots of American. So I grew up seeing and traveling and witnessing so many cultures, so many people. And just the
Yeah.
fact that we protect our indigenous community, and where actually the indigenous have a kind of like a political party that is really strong in Ecuador.
Hmm.
It's like I cannot understand why indigenous in America have not had that level of power and representation in the United States. It just shocked me. It breaks my heart
Yeah.
because I'm like, Americans, like the real American, like the I know that we're talking in politics over here, but I'm sorry. But it's so amazing to
That's okay.
see that American Native Americans are not even considered to some point like citizens of this country, like they're not treated as such, like they have all
Right.
this weird BS. It's shocking to me because coming from a country where it's like there's a lot of indigenous, like, and of course we have a lot of Spaniard, a big population of the Spaniard, and we call mestizos a mix of the Spaniards and everything else, and everything else, even
Yeah.
aliens. um,
Yeah.
it is just fascinating to me and painful to me to see that we don't see that level of representation here. Because I tell you, if we heard some of the, I don't know if you're familiar with the Texaco oil big lawsuit that Ecuador has against
Hmm.
Texaco, the oil company, big lawsuit.
Oh wow.
Yeah, if you look into it, you research into it, it was the indigenous community uh, filed a lawsuit, an international lawsuit to Texaco, the oil company, because of the damage that was done in the jungle. And
I mean, it's not surprising,
yes, and we kind of, I
sadly.
think that we won. Like there's so many winnings and so many winnings, and it just makes the international community realize that indigenous people have power. We just have to create a space for them to step up and show up and to
Yeah.
support them. So
Yeah.
that's why we say like what is growing up in another country. Like it brings a lot of different perspective living here in the United States.
Yeah. I culture is a big word that I think about a lot. And, it's hard to look at the culture that comes from the States when it's like the true culture that started in this country is just like you said, it's just next to
Mm.
forgotten. It's not represented. And it's really sad. And I love hearing from people who have grown up in other cultures that truly appreciate it and celebrate it. It's not a bad thing. It's not something that's hidden. It's celebrated. It is like, it's so important to the countries. And yeah, it's tough. It's tough to look at that, like I have Native American blood, and it's tough when you look at the reservations. Like I've driven out west a ton, and it's just like, oh, that's what you've given these people. Like that's the best
Mm.
that they deserve. It's really, really sad. Um, it's really sad.
it, it,
Um,
it is
so
sad, the whole dynamic of it, and that's why like I feel like I'm very passionate about like creating a space for everyone to be seen, for everyone to
yeah,
be seen. I come from a space of that I grew up creating a space for that. um so I'm looking forward to create more and more where we have more of this. That's what, like, even like for tonight event, it's like about a cacao ceremony that, for me it's like believe it or not, a lot of people here in America it's like, oh, cacao ceremony. And for me it was like, oh, I live that all the time, so I don't know why it's
sure.
such an excitement of it, you know.
Right. Yeah, it has that for sure has been blown up into something just, you know, massive. I know so many people I know talk about it. And yeah, it's funny to hear you say like I lived that.
I mean, it's like, oh, it's just like having, for people having gone to go to sleep or go in the morning, like have hot cocoa. For me, it was like that, and just community and
Yeah,
celebration and all
right. Oh, that's so fun. Um, so when you came here, when you were 19, where did you first go in the States?
New York, Long Island.
Okay. How was
Yeah.
it when you came up here?
How was it? Um,
Yeah.
it was interesting because at the same time, when I came to the US, I was 19. I already had been going through my studies of gnosis, which is like the science of knowledge, and where we study a lot of the different esoteric, mystical, energetic, different kind of like religions and philosophies and things like that. So it's like, so I study a lot of like Tantra, Kama Sutra, Buddhism, and all these other philosophies. So when I came to the US, it was a little bit different for me because I lost my tribe, or we call it. Like I lost my community
Yeah.
because I spoke no English when I came to the US. I I couldn't even say have a nice day. That was a tongue twister for me.
Wow.
Um,
Sure.
so when you don't know the language and when you are disconnected from your community and your support system, and when you are in a place of survival, because also, at one point I became a legal immigrant, even though I came legally to the US. When you have many factors that kind of like put you in a situation where you're vulnerable and you have to keep yourself quiet and not be able to speak up with your voice. And even when it comes to abuse, you can't speak up the abuse because you're afraid that something's going to happen to you and your family. Um, it
Sure.
was kind of like, I would say, like traumatizing in the sense of like, oh, look at what I put myself up to. It's like, oh boy.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
everything because,
Yeah.
yes, I do believe, and I would say that America is the place where your dreams come true. I do feel like there's like such a powerful portal energetic in it. And I feel like America, these United States of America, this area, it has the power of being a catalyst for the world because whatever happens in the US, it ripple effect everywhere else in the world. And many Americans don't see that about the US. Like they don't see that whatever happened here, if you raise up your voice or you don't raise up, if you just tolerate and you don't like speak the truth, it get impacted to the rest of the world. So it was really
Yeah.
fascinating for me to be here at the first couple of years because I remember my cousin telling me that something. I said, the day that you're able to curse back at me, that's the day that you actually know that you learn English. You know,
I
the
love it.
way the day that you can tell everybody go fuck yourself, that's the day you know you speak English
I love
without
that.
even questioning it.
Yeah, that's so good.
And if you
Oh
think
man.
about it, it's the truth in a sense because the day that you are able to utilize the like I don't know if you know about OSHA. OSHA had a video, it's like a couple of few minutes, and talks about the word, you know, and he talked about like all the ways that the word fuck is being used, and it's hysterical. So it is
Yeah.
true in the sense that when you're able to utilize that word in so many ways, you have been able to understand the concept, and the language of English and how to use one word as a verb, as a noun, as a proverb, as an adverb, as
Yeah.
everything.
It's brilliant. That's why it's my favorite word.
Yeah, mine too. So
I
it's
love
like,
it.
so if you go to YouTube and look for Osho, it's OSHO and fuck, you will watch a video and it's hysterical and it's truth. It's truth.
Yeah.
So yes, it was such a great experience coming to the US, and like for the first couple of years, it was interesting. And at one point I was lost too because like I said, I didn't speak the language. I lost my community. coming from a place of like being in survival space mode. I put myself in situations that I was very vulnerable and in relationship, and attracted that toxic relationship in my life. Um,
Yeah.
and I think like the day that I was able to get out of that toxic relationship is when I was able to speak back to my ex-husband. At the beginning, everybody loved me because I was quiet, right?
Sure.
When you
Yeah.
don't speak the language, you're quiet, right?
Right.
And that's not just like as a reality, but also as a metaphor. When we don't speak the language, we quiet ourselves,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I was able to get out of the relationship when I was able to say like, go fuck yourself. I'm like, bye bye, see ya.
Perfect. Yeah. Yeah.
See ya.
Yeah.
I woke out of my
Yep.
marriage with my juicer that I spent like $500 on it, and my kitchen edge blender. I woke out of the house like this, and my
Perfect.
child, and I was like, I leave everything behind. I'm gonna make it. I came to the US without literally like a backpack, and I made it through it, and I've been successful in many ways. So I'm like, you know, it's not common for me to start from scratch.
Right. Um, so how what did you do to learn English?
I went to school. I went to
Okay.
school. Yeah. And I can tell you
That's
that,
so cool. I mean,
go ahead.
oh, just learning it at such a late age it's impressive
It
because
was.
I didn't learn languages and I know I'm starting slowly into them now and it's
The,
really tough.
the key is immersion.
Yeah.
Immersion. You have to immerse yourself in the culture. You have to immerse yourself in the language. I can tell you that my first class of it was biology, not even biology, it was human health, something like that. I was like, if anybody's looking at me or listening to me, I was like, what? Like,
Yeah.
what? And it's like, if you are into movies, these movies are In and Out. I think it's like Inside Out, In and Out. It's something that's a cartoon movie for kids, but it's
Oh yeah.
brilliant.
Yeah.
And it talks about like the different personalities within yourself. Like you have the red persons, the anger, and the blue shy, and all that stuff. So if you have watched it, you understand like when it goes like what. It was interesting. It was interesting to just like not understand anything, and I had a headache for like a whole entire week.
Oh, I bet.
I
I
was.
bet.
It was surprising. Yes.
Oh man. That's amazing. So then what brought you down to where you are now?
I will say, I escaped from the cold. I lived in New York
Sure,
for
yeah.
14 years, and I was a single.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I was a single mother with a 3-year-old, like almost 4 years old. And even though I was making like over $50,000, $60,000 a year of my own business, I was broke every day, and I was not
Yeah.
getting child support, and I was having like, and I just didn't have support system. And for me to be able to work as a single mom, I had to leave my daughter with a babysitter or with her dad, and her dad is another story for another day. And it was just really not ideal for me to live
Sure.
my dream. So I decided that I was, after I came back from Ecuador from a trip, I decided I was going to move here to Florida. And I kind of convinced my ex-husband to let me take the child with me. It was, for his own sake. I said, like, I don't need any money from you. Like, I'm not even getting any of it. But I don't, let me just go,
Right.
because I can't be in a state that it was so expensive.
Oh man,
It
yeah.
was so hard, and winters were not easy. Like, I remember waking up. What made me to say enough is enough in New York was when I was in my apartment and I have just paid $400. Um, I have just paid $400 for oil to heat my house. And those four
Right.
hundred dollars just lasted 2 weeks. And I woke up on New Year's Day with a 40-degree inside of my house. I woke up so freezing
Oh God.
cold that I was like, I could not believe it. I had to call for gas again. I was like, for oils, you're right, like to heat up the home.
Yeah.
And my home was like, as a single mom, I was paying like $400 or $500 a month or $600 a month just in like and to keep myself warm in a small apartment because the place
Right.
was not well insulated. So all my heat was going out. I was like, I'm done. I just can't do this. And then Nemo happened. I don't know if you remember Nemo back in like 2012, 2013.
Yeah.
I was done. I was like, that's it. Nemo happened. I'm done. I'm out of here.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I learned that lesson about the gas for heat when I was pretty young. I was like 21. I was living in Virginia, and I was living kind of on my own for the first time ish, and got to be really, really cold in Virginia. And so we went to turn on the heat and there was no heat coming out. And we were like, what the hell's going on? And then someone was like, oh, yeah, you have to fill up you have to fill it up with gas. And I was like, what? And then, yeah, we called and it was so expensive. And this was 15 years ago. And so I learned that lesson the very hard way of how expensive that was. So I could fully understand that.
Yes.
Um, Man, so you are a life and relationship coach in a bunch of different platforms, I guess I'd say. Talk to me about that. What brought you into all of that?
Oh, again, back to witnessing my family not having that level of consciousness when they were relating with each other. And also, um, because my spectrum of work is from like, clients that come to me because they lack confidence in their life and intimacy, all the way to polyamory, kink BDSM and beyond, right?
Yeah,
So for me, it was about growing up in a home where my dad and the Latino communities, we call the macho community, is very common for men to have multiple lovers, multiple women in the hidden, to have these experiences in the hidden. And the women, the wife, were the ones that knew about it, but they would not say anything about it, or they would not do anything about it because the man is providing, right? In so many
sure.
cases. So there was this level of secrecy and um, I would say I wouldn't call it like it was this level of secrecy and not transparency and not living from a place of caring for one another. And yes, and I saw what happened when my dad had like multiple lovers and cheated on my mom, and my mom had to keep it quiet. And not just my dad, but all my uncles from my dad's side, it was very common. My cousins, everyone, like everybody having 3, 4 girlfriends, it was very common. So for me, it's about, okay, how can we be in the most intimate, amazing, juicy, delicious relationship with our partners and keep it active and keep it going. And like if we're struggling in the relationship, let's look at what actually is happening, where our trauma is, where this check hold is, where like the pain is that is shutting us down, that is closing our heart, that is shutting our sexuality, that is suppressing our intimacy. Um, so let's look at that, because when we look at that, we're able to expand ourselves in a way that is incredible in our intimacy and our sexuality. And at the same time, yeah, allow this level of fulfillment and joy to be in a relationship where you can express without fear, without shame, without judgment, without guilt, your intimate desire, your fantasies, what it is that you would like to do, you want, and you need, you desire, your fantasies. For me, it's important to help my client to create a space for themselves to be able to be liberated, to explore all of what they're here for and beyond. And when it comes to fantasies, one of my mentors, we always talk about, they are fantasies that are meant to be not share, and there are fantasies that are meant to be shared. They're okay. They're
Mm-hmm.
meant to be experienced. And there's some fantasies that are to be here within ourselves, and that's it.
Sure.
You know, um, it's the
Yeah.
same thing with some desire. There's some desire that are meant to be spoken, and some desire that are not meant to be spoken. And the problem that we have in relationship is that many times we don't know ourselves, so we don't know which ones are meant to be spoken and which ones are not.
Right. Yeah. 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 And I think just around sexuality, I think so many people, it's like I'll talk from my experience growing up. It was just like not what you talked about. Like didn't matter, not even going into like the LGBTQ. It was just like you don't talk about sex. Like you just repress it. It,
Mm-hmm.
you make a family and that's it. And that's like what the sex is there, so like I know coming from the community that I did that it just was not spoken about, and I think it adds that level of shame to people when they get older and they're having these thoughts, because we all do, everyone does, I
Yeah.
mean, think about porn addiction, it's like if you watch porn you have fantasies, you know what I mean, like
Yeah.
it's there. So I think it's very important that you talk to these to your clients and allow them to live in that and come out with that and be like, this is important for you to talk about these things and have these sorts of you
Yeah, it's
know
it's about
this
creating.
freedom in your relationship.
Yeah, it's about creating the space for them to allow themselves. It's like that's what's important. And when people talk about porn, I love to mention porn because I feel like everything that we experience in life, everything out there is a tool, and we can use the tool for greatness or for destruction. So it's important to educate our children and our men and our women, um, that if porn is there at some point, it's going to be treated as a tool, and it's going to be up to them how to use it for the greatest good or for destruction of themselves to become addicted to it. Addiction is in any, many people are addicted to porn, but other people are addicted to work, you know?
Sure. Yeah, totally.
And what I
Totally.
would tell is that, if we have any addiction because we're disconnected from ourselves and we're disconnected from our body, like, I belong to this community where we're creating conscious porn. I'm part of a project that I'm going to be part of a project that's called Gas MTV, that is it's about creating conscious porn, like conscious, adult entertainment. And it's about the level of consciousness and awareness that we bring into the space. Because I tell you, I learned how to give a blowjob because I watched a porn video. I mean, I was virgin until the age of 21, 22. I have no
Hmm.
idea how to give a blowjob, like, because I was a
Sure.
master colors in New York doing hair. So in salons, you hear a lot about sex and relationships. So that's what my expertise comes from, right?
Yeah.
Besides all my years of expertise here, I have 14 years of expertise listening and counseling women when it comes to listening, the aspect of their
Yeah.
relationship, their intimacy, and the cheating and all that stuff. So I remember,
Right.
my ex-husband actually complained one time to me, like, which traumatized me. I still have, still healing
Sure.
on that, how bad I was giving a blowjob. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so bad and this. And then I mentioned it to my coworkers, and they're like, and I was like, but I don't know how that is. And they're like, what? How old are you? And I was like 26, 27. And they're like,
Wow.
and
Yeah.
they're like, what? Like, you don't know? Like, and they're like, what they did is like, okay, we're gonna subscribe you to this porn site. So, so they subscribed me to this porn site, and I was like, okay, so we're just watching the videos, right? And I got my videos, and I was like, literally taking note. I was looking every angle of the video. I was like going like this,
Sure. Yeah.
every angle. I'm like, oh, let me just put it. I'm like, I was looking at my tablet and my laptop, and oh my God, okay. I'm looking from down, I'm looking from up. I'm like, oh, okay. So she's breathing while she's doing that. She's
Yeah.
not breathing. I'm paying attention to
Yeah.
every single detail. And I tell you, because of it, I was able to know how to give a blowjob. So porn itself, if we know, we look at it from like a conscious perspective, is a way that many people that who have no idea what did that look like, we can learn like, oh, that's what it is. The same thing like when I got into kink
Right.
BDSM. I was afraid of it because my partner was showing me some videos from California from like these dungeons that they do this, crazy stream stuff. And was like, oh my God, that's
Right.
crazy. But then when I started looking at the other dynamic, I was like, oh, that's what they're doing. The same thing
Yeah.
happened, if we weren't going to be raw. And like the same thing happened because I always was curious how lesbians and how gay men used to make love, make love.
Sure.
I was able to learn through the porn videos because I was like, oh, that's how they do it. Wow, interesting.
Right. Yeah.
So
It's an educate. It can be an educational
it
tool.
is
Yeah.
an educational tool. And I think like if we educate people and we help them to change the perspective that it is an educational tool that you are in control, it's not controlling you, but if you are in control, it shifts the consciousness of the individual. And it will help them to become in tune with their body, with their own sexuality. I tell you that we would not be having conversation about porn addiction.
Yeah. That's very true. That's very true. I didn't even think about it that way. Yeah, because I mean, to jump a little bit into my addiction, I still am an alcoholic, but I'm 2.5 years sober. So I know like when I look at a bottle, I can't control it, but I know people that can look at have a glass of wine or two and not, it doesn't have any control. It's just like, cool, I had it and it was there and it was good. Great. I move on, and then there's me on my spectrum that I just can't control it. And so I think that's a beautiful way to look at it of like you can use it and it'll help you and then leave it,
Yeah,
don't let it run and ruin,
yeah.
just
And
take it for what it is.
I have clients that have come to me because they have addiction to alcohol, and especially at late at night. Like they have to have the glass of
Mm,
wine, and sometimes they have to have like 2 or 3 glasses of wine. And I always invite them to like, okay, take your glass of wine and or your got a shot, and ask your body why it is needing that right now. It is because it needs to calm down and relax. It's because it needs to suppress an emotion. It needs because it needs to suppress stress that is happening. And where is this coming from? So when we take a glass of scotch and we actually, before we even drink it, we already doing the process like, okay, we connect with the glass, we connect with the liquid, we connect with the people that create it, we connect with the process of the scotch, we connect with actually the corn, right? Or the corn or the other material that was used for it. We
yeah.
connect with that at a more profound spiritual level. And then we're like, okay, so now I'm connecting with my body. Like my body wants this. Like, okay, so let's just have a sip of it and just see how that feels into my body. Okay, it feels that. Okay, what else it feels of that? Like, so what is that is actually happening? So let's invite the conversation of the spirit
Yeah.
of the scotch of the alcohol interacting with our body. So that itself is create a level of communion, a level of communion. I love this word because it's a
Yeah.
level of communion. We're not just communing with the what we eat, but it's a level of communion with the element that we're putting into body. And if we know that they're affecting us because there's a message behind it. Alcohol,
Right.
when we use it in excess, is because at some level, a part of ourselves is trying to give us a message and it's not getting through. And the only way to get through the message is to us be knocked down.
Right.
So, what's the message?
That's a really, yeah. No, that's really beautiful.
She's
That's a
like,
really
so
incredible
I'm
way
like, let's
to,
make love to alcohol when we drinking the alcohol. Oh, yes. Okay, make love to
yeah.
it. And then like, oh, let me just like, what's the message? Just be curious about the
Yeah.
message and let the message guide you through it. And I tell you that working with my clients who have addiction to alcohol, especially at night, the sense of guilt, the sense of shame, the sense of that, da, 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 da. When we come from a place of conscious awareness and connection, we release all those BS emotions of shame, judgment, fear, and all that. Why? Because And now we're giving ourselves permission to have a love of connection that we didn't have before. So now we're not struggling like this. We're not struggling. We're
Right.
not having an inner conflict within ourselves. The reason why we keep an addiction is because we have an inner conflict. If we just allow ourselves to be and experience it without allowing this inner conflict within ourselves, I I say like we don't have addictions because we are connected.
Yeah.
The reason why we have addiction because we're disconnected in some aspect of ourselves, with some aspect of ourselves. And when we don't have like a beautiful polyamorous internal wall, like our inner polyamor is not in love.
Yeah. I like that. That's a really beautiful way to look at all of that. I've talked to a lot of people about addiction at this point, because I love to impart the knowledge that I have. But man, that is a really unbelievably beautiful way to look at it. To take, because it gives you the power. It's an empowerment for you. It's a more thought out process of why, like actually thinking about why you're having this. It's like, why do I drink water?
Mm-hmm.
Because it hydrates me, it's good for me, like then like equate it into something that can be such a negative. It's like take in the like, why are you doing, like I love that. I think that's such a beautiful mindset to put yourself in and to give that to
Yeah,
people.
and it's just when it comes to water, there are people that can die from addiction to water, and people don't talk about it. It's like, what?
Right. Yeah. Too much water is not good for you.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
what? People can die
Yeah.
from addiction to water? What does that mean? No way. I'm like, yeah. It's like we
Yeah.
can get addicted to anything,
Right.
even to
Anything in excess is not good.
everything except it's telling us there is something disconnection within ourselves. So it is our duty when we love ourselves to go deep in there and connect with the tool. That was like, any tool out there. Alcohol has been used in Inca communities for thousands of years as an aspect of the
Yeah.
ritual ceremony. They drink alcohol, the Incas, and like growing up in a culture where, I was like 8, 9 years old, and they would give me like a tiny little bit of alcohol because I was going into the Andes because it's so freaking cold. Hey, alcohol has a purpose. It's gonna keep you freaking warm. If you're gonna be like, I no
Yeah.
drink, I'm a purist, and all that shit, I'm gonna fucking freeze in there because that's gonna happen.
Right.
Your body needs
Yeah.
alcohol in a sense, you know. so so they have a level of connection that is different. um
Sure.
and it is again, let's connect with intention, let's connect with the spirit of the tool, and let's ask the spirit of the tool to invite us into recognizing the message that is behind it.
Yeah. Man, that is so beautiful. I love that.
And it's
I love that. It's
recorded.
so powerful. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Wonderful. Um, all right. I'm gonna switch gears, and I asked this to everybody on the podcast. And you've seen some really beautiful places, in your own country and probably other places that we haven't talked about. But let's say COVID restrictions aside, if I came to you and I said, "Here's a plane ticket to anywhere in the world,"
Mm,
where would you go?
Egypt.
Ooh,
Hmm.
I love that.
Yes,
I want to go to Egypt as
I have
well.
one of my friends, one of my colleagues in the realm of Eros, that she's in Egypt and she's had amazing experiences there. I have such an energetic connection with Egypt. I don't know. It's like it's in a blueprint of my soul. There's the energetic connection. I also have an energetic connection with all the pyramid. I feel like I have an energetic connection to all the pyramid of the world. Since I grew
Hmm.
up in Ecuador, and I think I was spoiled in the sense that I was able to go to sun temples. Oh, like it was nothing.
Oh yeah.
Right? Like, oh, it's nothing. We're just going to the sun temple this weekend. All right. Oh, the moon temple. Oh, okay.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
yeah, so I feel like I have experienced that, so now I would like to experience that part of Egypt, and maybe all the sacred temples out there.
Man. Yeah. I would. If you had said that, I'd be like, "Cool. I'm coming to Egypt with you."
Hmm.
I would love to go check out Egypt.
Yes, if whenever you want, like I have like again, I have a resource there that she knows all the great places to go and like also very affordable. So, and where we can also experience
Fantastic.
freedom, because I know that there's some
Yeah.
restrictions in there, especially also for women, right? Like there's like
Yeah.
some restrictions, but yeah, isn't that amazing? Like how places that's so sacred in so many aspects of evolution, uh, they live in a place of restriction. It to me it just blow my
It
mind.
truly is. It truly is. Yeah. Yeah. The more you look into it too, the less it makes sense of like, yeah, it just doesn't make any sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man. Yeah. Yeah. I don't get that in those in that culture, in those kind of cultures. I don't understand that. Um, all right. Two more questions for you. And the first one is what would you want the world to know about you?
Mm. Mm. That I'm here to create a space for all of us to tap into a consciousness in relating. That it is possible. That there are ways. I'm not saying I'm a perfect one or I'm the role model. I'm saying, I'm here to create a space for all of us to tap into what conscious relationship is about.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. And I can feel that. It's fun when I get to, like I said earlier, when I get to have a conversation with a perfect stranger today and then like just feel that connection. And I really do. I feel that. I think this has been a beautiful, beautiful conversation. I'm so excited that we connected.
Yeah, me too.
Um, and then if you had the ear of everybody in the world, what would you say to them?
Mm. If I have the ear of everybody, um, what I would say to them, that you are infinite love.
Yeah, I love
Yeah.
that.
When we tap into that,
That's a
it just allows us to know that we don't need anybody's validation. We don't need anything from the outside to experience love, to look for love, to search for love. Like, oh, I'm searching for love. I'm searching for my love mate. We are infinite love. And the whole BS of abandonment, trauma, or I'm not good enough, I'm not love enough, I am not this, I'm not that. All that bullshit will go away.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's such an important message. I know in my journey when I found self-love again, I saw myself making such important strides once I found that in myself again. So I know I know that is a massively important message. So thank you for sending that message out to the world with all that you do.
Thank you.
And I thank you for your time. I thank you for hanging out this morning and chatting with me and just sharing your beautiful mind with us.
I thank you. Thank you for saying yes to this. I really appreciate
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. I was very excited when you messaged and it's been fantastic. And I look forward to keeping connecting.
Awesome. Yes.
All right. Well, have a beautiful rest of your day and have an amazing ceremony tonight. And yeah, I'm sure I will speak with you soon.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you. Have a great day, everyone.
All right. See you.
See ya. Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Beautifully Human podcast. To hear more beautiful stories from beautiful humans, follow us on Spotify and rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts. Follow us on Instagram at the Beautifully Human Podcast. Peace signs up.